Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to this Wealth Day special Advocacy 101 short video where we will share the why and how you can get involved in advocacy in supporting a particular cause or policy at the state level. I'm Zack Pistora. I've been lobbying for 10 years as an environmental lobbyist for the Kansas Sierra Club. And I'm honored to be joined by Justice Horn tonight, who is a talented and committed activist in Kansas City, where he works as a community outreach and engagement specialist for the Metropolitan Energy Center and serves as an advisor for both the White House's Office of Public Engagement and to the City of Kansas City, Missouri on climate protection. Justice, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Before we get into the how of advocacy and the actual ways we can impact our government's decision making, I know you've dedicated a lot of time and energy into proving social justice and climate justice, civil rights, LGBTQ plus rights, both in your community and beyond. I just think it's amazing. You're helping out the White House and your city on a number of different ways. I'm wondering, what advocacy means to you, what activism means to you as we talk about Advocacy 101, and what first motivated you to try to make a difference in public policy?
Yeah. So first, I thank you for having me. And, that's really the conversation of tonight is just the tools and resources on how to advocate for oneself as well as a community. As stated before, I have a long history of fighting for civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and, frankly, human rights. But really what we want to do tonight is give you all the tools and the resources for you to do it. I'm no one special. I show up at committee hearings. I send letters. I, call and email my representatives. And, everyone on this call and everyone who's going into Wealth Day can also do the same. So I think it's important because government serves us and government is meant for us and government is meant to move because of us. So I think it's absolutely important to the communities we not only represent, but come from. And I know that everyone, wants to move in the Wealth Day with that.
Well, I like that answer. I'd have to say, I think you are special, Justice, but I think everyone who gets involved in this shared decision making we call democracy is special, because that is a special thing. And that's how we've been able to, go ahead.
You've been doing this for 10 years. So why is advocacy important to you? I'll ask.
Thank you. Well, I thought, being in school and growing up, you hear about all the good that has come out of American democracy and having civil liberties and rights, and what we can do to have our institution of governance as a positive force for change, for positivity in our lives. And then, I'd go back home and then we'd hear, well, hey, that's not true for everyone, and it's slow and it's crooked at times. And so I thought, well, there's a part here that there's truth on both sides. And if it's by the people and for the people, then we just need to get involved and change it as we'd like it to be. And so thank you for asking. And so I boil it to this, if we're not playing the game of democracy, then it's likely that we'll get played by that governing system. And so I'm glad we're trying to get more people involved, and especially young people that might be listening to this, is that, is one of the biggest populations as voting eligibility. We don't vote like we should. We could have more power than we do, but we're not engaged in the process. So I think it's really upon us to try to get everyone involved, especially young people who can, have more impact for our future. So thanks for asking that. Well, that kind of leading to my next question was, what are there any requirements or restrictions on who can get involved?
No, there's not. Everyone who lives on, in any community has, especially vibrant communities has a state representative who represents them down at the Capitol here in Kansas, as well as they also have their counterpart in the state Senate, their state senator. So it is absolutely important for not only for you to know who those two people are, your state representatives to your state senator, but as well as your governor. I think there are no requirements to that because, all three of those people serve you. And specifically with Wealth Day, it's more focused on the state side and state legislature. Our U.S. representatives and U.S. senators represent the state of Kansas at D.C., but specifically what Wealth Day is the state legislature, the state Senate, the state House of Representatives, and the governor's mansions. So there are no requirements, and those are kind of the level we're working on in today's call and this week.
Great. And I should say, for those that aren't familiar with Wealth Day or what that might be, that's an acronym, stands for water, energy, air, land, transportation, and health. And I like those issues because they're common denominators for all of us. We all need clean air and clean water, and we all rely on transportation and health for our well-being. So that's good that we all have those things in common. So they shouldn't be as political as they are sometimes. But I wanted to get into, thank you for sharing all that. It's really important. And to all of you listening, I think it's really critical you identify why it is important for you and your perspective in getting involved. And we all have a stake in our future, and we all have a stake in the community we live in. But it's important to share why you come to the table, per se, why you're interacting with your legislator. And that's what I want to turn to next is ways we can impact the public policy making process. Okay. And I'd say the first one that may be the most obvious, and you mentioned it already, is meet the leaders and share your views. And there's different ways you can do that. Send a letter, email, make a call, show up to a meeting, a public meeting. And that is really important to provide that connection, because that connection, sharing your views and values, will help reiterate as a representative who they're representing and what they're representing. You have any comment or thoughts on that, Justice?
Yeah, I think it's important, for us to understand that this, very much transcends politics and party, but that every single citizen has a state rep and a state senator. So every single person has people who are there to serve and work on behalf of them. So it's important that we all understand that, we all know that. And that we, hold them accountable with these ways of holding them accountable.
Well put. That's important to realize that they've been entrusted in this job of representation, and that's really good that we help them understand what representation looks like for their community by showcasing our views. In the chat, it was just put in there that if you aren't familiar with your Kansas legislator, there's a website, KSLeg or Ledge, LEG, lookup.org, KSLegLookup.org. And just type in your address. I think you can find who represents you. Another thing you should think about are ways to impact the public policy making process. Is one that maybe many are familiar with. You think about doing your civic duty. What do you think about?
Think about voting.
Voting. You got to vote. And that voting is happening more often than what we think every 4 years just for the president. It's really important that you get involved, research your issues, form a stance on anything from local to the who's on your school board, to who's at the state house in Topeka, and all that. And important to vote on the issues, but knowing what you're voting for and who you're voting for. So it's really important. Another important way to impact the process is a public comment. And that can also happen at the local level. At the state house and the state level, we call it providing testimony. Testimony is just your perspective on the issue, sharing your concern, and making the arguments for or against or neutral to a proposed legislation. And then finally, what we're doing tonight, helping to share the knowledge and inspiring, mobilizing others, joining, or in some cases, igniting the movement. That's talking with peers, writing a letter to the editor, posting on social media, joining a group, or even attending a lobby day. And Justice, I remember the first time I caught your name was you were doing some work on your campus and your student government and helping to make things happen in that community. Is how did you feel like you're able to share knowledge? What are some of the things you use on helping inspire others?
Yeah. So, a lot of that was, being very passionate on a lot of issues that pertain to us. Not only was I a person of color, but I was also a young person, a student, and a person who cared about, the world I was growing up in, if that is, from environmental issues to some issues that are public safety related. But what we saw was personally knowing, what we're doing tonight is gearing you with the tools and resources on how to advocate for oneself. But the last one speaks to me the most is because it's important to share knowledge and create movements. No one person can, do all this on their own. So that's why it's important to move as a collective, bring people with you, even, what you learned tonight, tell someone else about that and, further power and motivate other people. So what motivated me was, understanding that I had an opportunity and obligation to do the same for others around me. And, slowly but surely that creates a movement. And, there are a lot of phenomenal nonprofits and organizations who are part of Wealth Day that are doing phenomenal work. So if you don't want to just start it by yourself like I did, there are plenty of leaders in this industry to follow who are part of Wealth Day.
Great. Well, hey, you talked about sharing tools. Why don't we dive into specifics of connecting with our elected leaders? How about it?
Yep.
Well, that's the biggest thing I could say in my 10 years of trying to lobby. It's one thing for them to hear, legislators to hear from a lobbyist in one ear, but I think it's even more powerful if they can hear from, I like to say, extraordinary Kansans, so extraordinary Kansans, and share your views and values. And that starts by making contact with them, as we said. And this can happen at any and all times of the year, but it's especially critical when a legislator or elected official is considering a law or a policy in the moment, okay, or before the moment. So here are a few tips. All right, and we can talk about this. And Justice, if you have any response or additional advice, let me know. But here's a few things that I think what you should do. Okay, so it's always good to put your message in writing. It's great to be very personal. I think it's important to share a phone call, make a phone call into your legislator, and share your voice, connect with them, maybe get a chance to meet with them at a public forum, send in a video, whatever you want to do. It's good that you have a personalized touch, even a letter, but it's good to have something in writing so they can have a receipt of your message, okay? So they can carry that message with them. And so that's one of the first piece of advice is put your message in writing. Phone calls are great, but follow it up with an email or a letter. Do your homework on a representative. Know their correct title, who they represent, so that way you know who you're talking to, and someone maybe go in understanding a little bit of their shared values and who they represent. And that's all in a point in a connecting with one another. I think that's a way to be most effective. Of course, introduce yourself, share who you are and why you're talking with them today. Be specific about the issue, be direct and to the point. it's, understand that these folks have a lot of different issues they're concerned with. They may be familiar with some things more than others. They may be pressed for time. There's maybe a lot going on in the state house here in the end of February, early March, as far as legislation goes. But just know that they appreciate hearing your concern. So to that degree, be direct, be specific, share the reasons. Don't overpower, listen, be respectful, be courteous and kind. Of course, at the end, say thank you. I even like to start out by saying thank you for your public service. Thank you for taking time to listen to me. Or if you're talking with an assistant or a secretary at the State House, thank them for their public service and for taking your message. And also include facts and figures should it be helpful. Again, don't overwhelm them or overload them with information. And then make sure to follow up. Just don't let this be the only moment in time or the only contact you have. You're most effective if you have an ongoing relationship. They know who you are. You brought them good information and perspective the last time. They can count on you for that in the future. Some of those things. I'll pause there. Justice, you heard some of those tips. Are there any things that stick out to you or advice on anything?
Yeah. So I think it would be, important, as Zach stated, for one to be, very armed and equipped on the issues, because you don't want to start off an email or communications, maybe misrepresenting them or calling them a state senator and their state rep, or vice versa. So you want to do, your due diligence and prepare for this. A lot of it, is on the website that we stated before. And a lot of legislators have their bios, their backgrounds, what committees they sit on, as well as any past, legislation they've authored, if you really want to go deep into it. So that's all I, want to talk about, but, I'll speak on the don'ts here.
Yeah, please.
So, it's really important not to just rely on phone calls. There are a lot of people, me and Zach, we believe in democracy and think it's really important, but there are some people who don't want to hear from you. So it's important to have a diverse way of communicating them and getting your message across, as well as don't limit yourself to one contact or one person. You may send an email to your state rep as well as your state senator, or their legislative aides, or their chief of staffs, as well as, maybe talk to, one of their allies, or maybe someone in a neighboring district, or a Democrat or Republican who also sits in the same committee that the legislation is being heard in, as well as, don't be rude or don't complain. That's a good way to get no phone calls or no engagement back and forth, as well as don't be generic. Personally, in doing this work, I've seen the most powerful testimony when they haven't been generic responses that have been prepared. When you come from a place of, this is my community, this is why this means to me, and there's a personal touch to it. I've seen testimony written and phone call and all of it being, that much more powerful, because, even if you don't disagree with them, your state rep or your state senator, they live in the same community as you. And that, is a first way of connecting with people, because, a lot of them do care because they live and they, have families and work and play in those same communities. So really try and connect, like as Zach said, create relationships. And most importantly, don't give up. There are going to be a lot of people who, will shut you down or not contact you or push back when you, raise up your voice. But, it's important that, it takes all of us to continue to do that. And, we need to remember that these are not kings and queens or politicians. Everyone in the state house are public servants who serve each and every one of you. So remember that, don't give up. And those people work for you.
I like that. That's a great point. And your point about, common ground, I think is especially important. And if you ever get a chance to dialogue with the legislator, one thing I'd suggest is ask them why they got in to government in the first place, and that shares a little bit of light, and so you can go from there on commonalities, where they might live, what's the best thing about the community they represent, etc. So hey, well done on those tips. To conclude, I wanted to see if you'd join me, Justice, in a little of a exercise, a role play sort of thing, so people can kind of hear and visualize maybe what a contact with a legislator might look like. Okay.
Who am I playing?
Okay. Well, how about I be the caller and you can be the representative?
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, it's not all the time you'll get the representative on the first try.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do an action? Yeah, and action.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just looked up my legislator in the legislative lookup, KS Leg, LEG, lookup.org. I found out my representative is Representative Justice Horn, the Honorable. Okay, I'm going to type them up. I got the number. Okay, beep, beep, beep. Yeah, hi. I was hoping to speak with Representative Horn.
Well, you're lucky because my LA's out and you got me.
Hey, Representative, how are you doing? My name is Zack Pistora, and I wanted to share with you my interest and introduce myself and share my interest on one of the bills being heard in your committee on water.
Well,
and just wanted to ask first, I just wanted to say thank you for your government service. I know you've been up there. I know you have a lot busy this time of year, so I really appreciate you taking the time to hear from me.
Well, I really appreciate that. I think we, all get up and want the same thing in our community. So, I'd really appreciate any comment you have on this piece of legislation. So I thank you for calling.
You bet. Well, again, my name is Zack. I'm one of your constituents. Actually, your house isn't too far away from me, as I understand it. Great neighborhood. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a water bill. This is House Bill 2686, and that would provide some really transformational policy in water, in my opinion. And I just wanted to share that I feel like that is so important. As you know, we all rely on water, our ecosystems to drink, but I also like to go out and row my canoe on our river here. And so it's important to me for different reasons. I was taking a look at the bill, and one of the things that would do is provide a little bit more critical funding for water programs throughout the state. And I was just curious if you were aware of the bill and if you have formed any position on that bill yet.
Well, I appreciate you calling and sharing that background. To my knowledge, I know that the bill was assigned to my committee, but I don't know that much on the bill. But I appreciate you calling me and making it a priority and showing me that it's important to not only you, but the district. So I will make sure, look at that bill. And to also, I'd appreciate any written statements or any written, communications you can also send to me so I can reference that, so I can, better make a decision. But I appreciate you calling. And yeah, I don't know if you have anything else for me.
Well, just want to say thanks again. That House Bill 2686, I would really appreciate your support of the bill. As we know, water is so important, and we want to see that water there for not just us, but for future generations as well. So I appreciate your support. It was really nice to talk with you today, and I'll look forward to talking with you in the future. I'll certainly follow up with a written statement, Representative.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something we can agree on. We all want good water, and especially for those coming up. So I thank you for calling me today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Good luck with the session.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, good job. You sound great. I think you should be a representative sometime there, Justice. Well, folks, just wanted to say, hopefully that gives you a little idea. And really, you can do even better than that, probably in some of your arguments. But that just shows you it's really not as hard as it might think it'd be. It can be a little intimidating if you haven't done it. But just picking up the phone, writing a little letter and an email, all those things really make a difference. And if you can, follow it up. See them in a public forum, perhaps get a chance to meet them sometime. All that's really good. So I hope you learned a little about how and why you can and should get involved in our democracy. Justice, it was an honor. I appreciate joining you on tonight's how-to. And for those, please join us for Wealth Day 2022, March 3rd on Thursday. Thank you for your attention, and thanks in advance for getting involved in your government's decision making. Appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and answer any questions here from the audience.
Thanks,
Hello,
Zack.
Jack.
I was going to, if you all can see the question in the chat, can you see that? Do you have access to that?
My main question is, when should we meet with our legislators this week? The schedule on Wealth Day is pretty full. Should we try to schedule a meeting tomorrow or Wednesday, or would it be better to try a meeting Friday after we have obtained information from this Thursday briefing panelist? I'll let you go on this, Zach, because you have more experience on this, but I'm guessing, I appreciate the question being asked because there's probably a lot of people who have this question.
Yeah, so you can always, give your legislator a call anytime, as we said, write a message, introduce yourself. Because we're going to be going over several of the legislative issues in our legislative briefing on Thursday morning, it would be good if you would like to wait to receive some of that information. We'll be going over some talking points. And then you can either follow up later that day if Thursday's a little bit busy with some of the activities. We'd encourage you to do it on Thursday while things are fresh and you're feeling the good motivation to contact your legislator, but you can always follow up afterwards. I would say the best time to reach legislators is either I think most of the business happens Tuesday through Thursday. If you want to give a call in on Monday, most of the legislators are there on Mondays thinking about business, what's happening in committees later in the week. I would discourage you from contacting folks on Fridays. A lot of the legislators don't have as many committee meetings on Fridays, and so they'll take a head start to go home back to their district. If you do have an opportunity to talk with them at their district, I think that is one of the best situations because they're anxious to listen to folks in their area say that it doesn't necessarily, it's always important to talk to your elected leaders, your state representative and your senator, but it's not a requirement, okay? So you can talk with anyone on the committee that might have a chance to study the bill. At the end of the day, we're all constituents of Kansas. They're debating and implementing policy for the whole state. And so please share your concerns with others at the committee level, if the bill's being heard at the committee level, or through as many people as you want throughout the legislature. Again, it's great to be more specific and direct and tell why you've been motivated to talk about the issue. So I hope that gives you a little bit of answer there.
Yes, thank you.